There was once a king who ruled over a prosperous and peaceful land. His palace was a magnificent structure of marble and gold, filled with courtiers, advisors, servants, and guards. He was never, not for a single moment, physically alone. There was always someone to bow, someone to fetch his wine, someone to laugh at his jokes. He had a queen, children, and more companions than he could count. And yet, the king was the loneliest man in the kingdom. He felt like a ghost in his own home. He would walk through the crowded halls, and people would step aside, bowing low, but their eyes would slide over him as if he were made of air. They saw the crown, the robe, the throne. They did not see him. He would give an order, and it would be carried out with flawless efficiency. But the faces of the people who served him were blank masks. He didn't know their names, their hopes, their sorrows. And they, in turn, seemed to know nothing of the man beneath the crown. He was surrounded by people and utterly alone. This loneliness festered. It grew into a cold, hard stone in his chest. He tried to fill the void with grander feasts, more lavish entertainment, but the laughter of the courtiers sounded hollow to his ears. He felt like the king of an invisible kingdom, a realm of one. In desperation, he heard of a hermit who lived in a cave high in the mountains, a man who had renounced the world and was said to possess a deep peace. Perhaps the king thought this man could teach him how to be alone without being lonely. He left his palace in secret, traveling for days until he reached the hermit's simple cave. He found the hermit sitting outside, watching the sunset. The king, used to people jumping at his command, simply sat down a respectful distance away and waited. After a long while, the hermit spoke without turning his head. "You have traveled far, your majesty. What troubles the ruler of a great kingdom?" The king was surprised. The hermit knew who he was. He poured out his heart, telling him of the marble halls, the faceless crowds, and the crushing loneliness that made his crown feel like a weight of lead. "I am surrounded by people," the king concluded, his voice heavy. "My palace is full of life, but I am invisible. No one sees me. No one knows I exist." The hermit finally turned. His eyes were clear and kind, and they looked at the king not as a ruler, but as a fellow human being. "You are lonely," the hermit said, "not because people don't see you. You are lonely because you don't see them." The king frowned. "What do you mean?" "I see them every day. I see 1,000 faces." "You see servants," the hermit corrected gently. "You see courtiers. You see functions. You do not see people. You have never looked at the face of the man who brings your morning tea and wondered what makes him smile. You have never asked the guard at your door the name of his daughter. You have built walls of protocol and position around yourself, and then you wonder why no one can reach you. You are not invisible. You have just built a fortress and called it a throne." The king was silent, the hermit's words sinking in like rain into parched earth. He had never thought of it that way. He had always seen his loneliness as a failure of others to acknowledge him. The hermit was suggesting it was a failure of his own to connect. "Go back to your palace," the hermit said. "And this time, look, really look. See the people who fill your days. You might find that the walls of your invisible kingdom are made of nothing but your own unwillingness to see." The king returned to his palace, the hermit's words echoing in his mind. The next morning, when the servant brought his tea, the king did not just take the cup and wave him away. He looked at him, really looked. He saw a man a little older than himself, with tired eyes and a kind face. "Thank you," the king said. Then, after a pause, he asked, "What is your name?" The servant looked startled, almost afraid. "It is Arun, your majesty," he stammered. "And Arun," the king continued, his voice softer. "Did you sleep well?" The question hung in the air. It was so simple, so human. The servant's eyes widened, and for a moment, the mask slipped. A flicker of something surprise, confusion, a dawning warmth crossed his face. "Yes, your majesty. Thank you for asking. That afternoon, as he walked through the halls, the king made a conscious effort. He didn't just look ahead, seeing a blur of bowing figures. He picked a face, an elderly woman polishing a banister. He stopped. "That is beautiful work," he said. She looked up, terrified she had done something wrong. "The shine on the wood," he clarified. "It is beautiful. How long have you worked in the palace?" Her terror melted into a bewildered pride as she told him. He started with small things. A question, a moment of eye contact, a word of acknowledgement, not for a service rendered, but for a person existing. He learned that the captain of his guard had a son who was sick. He learned that the girl who arranged the flowers in his chambers was saving to buy her mother a new shawl. He learned that the cook made a particular dish because it reminded him of his own grandmother. And something shifted. It wasn't that the walls of his invisible kingdom crumbled overnight, but small windows began to appear. People started to smile at him, not the tight, formal smile of a courtier, but a real one. They started to speak to him, not just answer. The palace, which had felt so empty, began to feel full. Full of lives, full of stories, full of connections. The king sat on his throne one day, looking out at the busy, living heart of his home. He was surrounded by people, and for the first time, he felt their presence. The loneliness hadn't vanished, but it had shrunk, pushed back by 1,000 small acts of seeing. He finally understood. He had spent his life trying to be seen, when the secret was so much simpler and so much harder. The secret was to see.